on a mission, and I've been gifted with a prescription to come and cure your condition. It's all but scripted by politicians. My trigger fingers itching, aiming at your Masonic vision. I'm on a mission, and I've been gifted with a prescription to come and cure your condition. It's all been scripted by politicians. My trigger fingers itching, aiming at the Masonic vision. Yeah, these lawless entities were sent for me, but I don't give a fuck. I'm trying to intervene by any means. Do anything you want. I'll fuck you up, bitch, and that's not a threat, I promise. All you cunts when I erupt, I'll take your all of you governmental scum. There ain't no bitch in me. My history should prove that I am done. I'm not even listening. My mission seems more important than dumb shit you jackass little children come up with. So you should run away before I say about 6 more things to shut you up. I'll never bow down in the knee, acquiesce or fold and need 100,000 men more bold than me. Bitch, I already told you I'm not playing. You hear what I am saying? To Matrix agents, learn the basics. You should take it slow. Fuck your authority, sorority girls like you keep climbing. Bitch, you're boring me, and all you need is man up. Quit trying to make these charges stick without a bit of legit reasons why your wounded egotistical bullshit means that I should come on a mission. Yeah, and I've been gifted with a prescription to come and cure your condition. It's all been scripted by politicians. My trigger fingers itching, aiming at the Masonic vision.
Let's face it, they hate it. A vibe so pervasive, embrace this, abrasive, breaking out the matrix to agents. They play tricks, detain us and take kicks to masons, ordaining foundations are changing, displacing complacence, remaining impatient. These cases won't make it. You staged it, you status. I claim it, a payment. You cannot negate this. Save it, the pages. I sign, bitch, I'm famous. I'm a wild man out of ya. Fierce one, you brought it on. I call it out, you're fraud upon. Quick like the Autobahn. I'm wiser, yeah, you're catching on. Higher than your echelon. Breathe fire, yeah, you best run, cause I'm tired of your lexicon. Wildman out.
I'm on a mission, and I've been gifted with a prescription to come and cure your condition. It's all been scripted by politicians. My trigger fingers itching, aiming at the Masonic vision.
Freedom.
So this is indeed the wild man who goes around auditing not just the cops, but also the entire justice system in his local area. Is that who I have on the phone with me?
Yeah, this is Wildman Audits, commonly, I guess, called Cody. And, I've spent the last 2.5 years of my life defending myself against violations of my rights, violations of the Constitution, and just overall human rights violations. And that journey has continued forth. And so I've started a YouTube channel a little over a year ago to bring awareness to these types of issues, and you can find that at Wildman Audits.
That is youtube.com, I guess, / Wildman Audits. Correct. Or basically at this point, they can just type in Wildman Audits into YouTube and they're going to find your channel.
Yes, absolutely.
I've noticed that you have very recently actually gotten quite a lot of attention on your page there. So thank you for paying attention to little old me here at Omniversal with our Beneath the Surface podcast. Psych, everybody listening is probably wondering, but me and Mr. Henderson here are really good in real life friends that did not meet on the internet. And his story is very similar to mine. Mine got no news coverage. There's no history of it. There's no record of it. It just happened, and human rights violations, all that. But Cody was smart and started recording everything that was going on. Now, it's my understanding, Cody, that you began recording and posting publicly because it was the only way you could come up with to protect yourself from what was transpiring?
Yeah, I had, earlier in my life, I had done research about knowing my rights. And one of the videos that I watched when I was like 18, this is a long time ago, it was talking about flexing your rights. And some of the things that the people were talking about is to film every interaction, don't consent to searches, and et cetera, et cetera. But that kind of left me with this knowledge that if I'm dealing with someone from the state or the federal government who in any way, shape, or form is not respecting the rule of law, then it's essential for me to begin filming if I haven't already. And, in this small village that I'm in, I knew that the chief, when he was approaching me, was not one to observe the rule of law. He is one who plays the rule of thrones, and he thinks that he's a king, so I'm going to do as he says or else. And that's not what the law says. And so I knew that when dealing with this person, I needed to film this stuff.
I think it's very interesting to note for all of you listening to this, that the officer in question here has not only already left the force as a result of getting sued by someone else and then returned, but his name is also quite literally Chief, because he's the chief of police in this village, Chief Lawless.
The infamous Chief Lawless. We've made him somewhat famous on YouTube. And yeah, you're right. He was hired here in 2017, and then in 2018 there was a lawsuit against him for malicious prosecution and Fourth Amendment rights violations, where he was targeting and violating the rights of a local journalist. Well, then shortly after that, I moved here. He resigned and left to a different state for multiple years. And then he came back in 2022, which is when he began his harassment of me.
Oh, that's wild. Lawless.
It seems wherever he goes, he has the intent to harass.
I mean, he does have the name there. I mean, you got to give him that.
The funny thing is that a lot of people on YouTube thought that we just called him that as a nickname.
Well, at first, I wasn't really sure, but then you were pretty upfront, like out the gate when we first reconnected about all of this, that indeed Officer Lawless, and I remember asking a bunch of questions like, wait, what's his name? You're like, William Lawless. Just, and then just to see it all play out this way, like, everybody listening, just stop what you're doing. Go to YouTube, type in Wildman Audits. Just watch the shorts. You'll see. All you got to do is listen to Lawless talk, and you'll come to the conclusion he is aptly named. Now, Cody, I have a very serious question here. Based on your biased opinion, and I worded it that way on purpose because I want for people to think for themselves. Whatever your opinion is of this situation is obviously biased, according to anybody outside. But that doesn't mean that your biased opinion is wrong or skewed or inaccurate. Based on your biased opinion, why do you think Chief Lawless was reinstituted as the chief of police after he resigned, according to the records here, after getting sued that first time for harassing someone else? Why do you think he came back? Was he asked to come back? Did he apply to come back?
Yeah, so I think what we have here is we have a village council who has remained within a small group of friends for a very long time. And And so the same people that work there now are basically the same people that were there then. And why that's important is because we have to understand that this isn't just an innocent governmental agency. It's a village council, which is a organized crime operation or organized crime syndicate pretending to be a governmental agency, or as we could say, operating as a governmental agency. And so whenever I moved here, my neighbor is actually on that village council. And he was initially...
What's your neighbor's name? Do we want to name names here?
Yeah, his name is Gregory Shaw, or Greg Shaw. You can find him on Facebook.
Be sure to Google that, peoples.
And Greg Shaw is my neighbor, and at first he was seemingly welcoming, but he always came over with these weird conversations and this kind of demeanor that he was managing my projects, because I moved here and began renovating a house. And he would come over here and act like, he's the boss. And I thought it was very odd and strange, because this is my property. And why is he just walking over here on my property without asking permission? And for two, giving me advice that I didn't ask for. And then a few months later, as things progressed, I spoke words with Greg Shaw and let him know that I didn't appreciate his presence. And it was shortly after that Chief Lawless was brought back. And I think it's clear that due to the interaction that I had with Greg Shaw, where I was smoking a hemp cigarette in my yard, and he approached me and told me that I needed to take that inside. And he told me that he's been smoking for a long time, but I have to keep it hush hush, quote unquote. And I told him I own a hemp CBD business. This is a hemp cigarette, and it's legal, and there's nothing you can do about it, old man. And he did not take kindly to that. And I think what he began to spread amongst his other fellows is that I had a fake hemp business and was some type of trafficker or some type of criminal, so that he could have a reason to bring back Chief Lawless to then harass me.
So essentially, it's your biased opinion that you moved in, your neighbor's a little nosy, you said back off, he said, how dare you? And as a result of that, he went through the motions of using his pull to bring back the chief of all lawlessness to do what? To screw with you specifically?
Yes. And it's important to note that even before 2017, the village of New Holland has been subject to many forms of corruption, such as the ex-mayor being investigated for embezzlement and other things. So, it seems to me that from my investigation and research and my presence here, this is a well-established criminal organization, similar to like a type of mafia, we could say. And so when I told my neighbor to back off and to, basically stay off my property, if you say something like that to the head of a mafia, what are they going to do? They're going to send someone after you.
Indeed. I know that for me, back around, you said this was when? What year?
2022 is when the harassment began.
And when did Lawless get booted the first time? Or as it shows, he resigned. But
that was in 2018.
2018. Interesting. So in 2016, going from 2016, around April the 6th of 2016, all the way up until eventually July, I want to say the 19th or so of 2017, I was arrested 3 times, charged with at least a total of about 7 different felonies, all of which have mysteriously disappeared. I'm obviously not in prison, and even though the word terrorist was attached to each and every one of those felony charges, eventually they just had to let me go because I said, you don't have a case, let's go to trial. And they shipped me out of state with no drug charges to a rehab facility, said stay there and all your stuff will disappear. And so I stayed there And then I was homeless because they got rid of me, you see. But I remember back in those days experiencing something very similar to what you're describing about this conspiracy against a particular citizen's rights. And for me, and it sounds like for you as well, just from listening to the story of that you've detailed on your YouTube, man, I wish I would have had a YouTube back then. It sounds like they not only violated your constitutional rights, but like my own, they violated your human rights in ways that they were able to sort of get away with at the time. And no one really questioned it. And whenever you question it, they use that as an excuse to instigate even more violence against otherwise peaceful citizens. So our stories are very similar, but all of my issues came full circle and were done, and I was back in that same area, living there. People saw me, the cops saw me, not in jail, not a criminal. I had a perfect driving record at that point in time. So I wasn't being harassed anymore. All of the same people, and they just left me alone because they all knew that they tried very, very hard and they all failed. But what they did succeed at is they took roughly a year and a half of my life away. I lost my house, my business at the time, friendships. Eventually, the relationship that I was in crumbled as a result of that point in time. Pretty much everything externally that made my life was gone. And what I gained was a very clear insight into this conspiracy that seems to govern us all. And it's something that I think you'll agree that people can't see often until it happens to them or to someone very close to them. And in my experience, those closest to me were the first to deny my side of the story. Still to this day, they can't explain to me what it is that I did that warranted such things being done to me, but they won't discuss with me what was done to me. Basically, it's all just, you shouldn't have done that stuff back then. You were going crazy and you were being, da, 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 da. I'm sure that you've gotten a lot of that since this all started, but it seems that things now have taken a turn because, man, your YouTube has gone from a little bit of traction, people interested, to a lot of traction. You recently had a very large channel basically take their viewers on a exploration through your channel, and they talked very highly of you. I know that you've had other media interests looking to interview you and do stories, not only just Omniversal, but what do you think changed between when all of this started and you started filming stuff and putting it all out there and now? Are they just giving up?
So on their side, nothing has changed as far as their efforts to thwart my constitutional rights, to discredit me, and to ideally push me out of their village, because they consider this their territory. But what has changed in the collective has been that I have consistently proven myself time after time after time after time to be honest, to be integral, to be lawful, and to have knowledge of the law. And I've done this over 28 different criminal charges that have now been dismissed in my favor, which have come through the last 2.5 years. 26 of those are directly related to Chief Lawless. And every time I present the video to the prosecutor, or oftentimes just to my, it's been in the past my public defenders. And I'll note also there that my first legal battles in all of this were with my public defenders, because
now, what do you mean by
attorneys are officers of the court. And so, even the public defenders who are there to represent you, if you choose to take one, they're not your friends. You might find a good one that feels sorry for you here and there, but ultimately, even I had a good public defender who got 9 charges dismissed for me, which were all bullshit. But then the next charges that came through on her desk, she was trying to railroad me on. And so it's like you already know this guy's been harassing me. You already know he's charged me with 9 other bullshit charges. So why are you trying to railroad me on these 12? And so in that case, I had to fire her. They appointed another attorney. I had to fire him. They refused to appoint me any other attorneys, so that was my first case that I represented myself in. And the next hearing, I met with the person who was prosecuting the case. I showed her the videos. I explained to her what happened. And I told her the only option that I was willing to take is a dismissal of all 12 charges. And I left the court that day with all 12 charges getting dismissed.
So you're up to a total of 28 dismissed charges. And I'm sure that the talk around that is that you're either somehow super connected to the legal system, which doesn't make any sense, right? Or you're lucky, which also makes even less sense. Or
it would seem odd that I would be targeted by the same judicial system that I have strong connections to, because if I had strong connections, I wouldn't be targeted in the first place, right?
Exactly. So it's either those two illogical conclusions, or you would think that it's because you did not break the law. They did break the law, and you have chosen to stand your ground each and every time and to state the truth. And I know that when I first came across the videos and getting more in-depth details about the story, and I linked up with you and tried to put together a timeline and try to paint the story just for my own sake. I know that what I saw was not only a painful reminder of stuff that I went through, it was something that ignited this fire within me to cause me to do everything I could to try to get more and more and more attention on just your videos, on your story, because anybody that looks at it comes to the same conclusion that anybody that thinks about it would come to with 28 charges dismissed. You're not lucky. You don't know anybody inside the system that's trying to prosecute you again and again and again. You just stand your ground, and for whatever reason, these people are dumb enough to keep trying and trying and trying, and they have 28 consecutive losses, I'm assuming?
Yes, those are 28 consecutive losses. They haven't sustained any criminal or traffic charges against me at all.
That proves one thing to me. I think a lot of people will agree. That proves that there is indeed a conspiracy against you in particular. It's hard to get that many charges, much less win that many cases. But they keep trying. And it sounds like they're just big mad at this point. Now, I know that you're pursuing a 1983 civil rights lawsuit against the village of New Holland and Lawless and this and that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. In December of 2023, I filed my first ever lawsuit I guess I went straight in for the big side of things. I didn't start with a small claims lawsuit. I didn't start with a state lawsuit. I started with a federal lawsuit and went straight to the federal court and filed a 1983 lawsuit for violation of multiple constitutional rights. And that was specifically for the instance that happened on November 22nd of 2022, where they pulled me over and they illegally searched my car and they seized property that was owned by my business related to hemp. It was all legal hemp CBD products. And so the reason that lawsuit is so important to me is because it has literally destroyed my business, a very successful business that I put over 4 years of time and energy into. And so right now we're waiting for the judges to rule on a motion for summary judgment, and that will decide if the case moves forward to trial or if I need to appeal whatever order the judge may decide.
Well, there we have it, folks. That's the reason why 28 times they have failed, because they are, in my opinion, too stupid to notice that they've just got this. That's, to me, if I was the judge in your lawsuit, I would look at 28 charges got dismissed back to back to back to back to back. And I would look at the fact that they not only took your property, but then they had to return your property because they had no reason to take your property, which proves that they violated your, which right is that? When they can't seize your property?
Yeah, the Fourth Amendment. And that's a good point. Yeah, exactly. So they seized the hemp without even giving me any drug charges. Meaning, okay, so here's the thing. For the Fourth Amendment, for them to violate your Fourth Amendment right, they have to have probable cause. So if they had probable cause that it was drugs, then why didn't they charge me with a drug-related offense? They would have had everything necessary to do so.
That's similar to me being sent to drug rehab with no drug-related charges.
Your situation is so crazy, because when I heard it, it's just like, wait. What? They charged you with how many felonies?
I can talk
that were never even filed.
I can talk to the most aware people that know the system and have been caught up in it, and I tell them my story. They say, "What the fuck are you talking about, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I lost my business too, in my house, my car, and everything.
And it's interesting that you and I had known each other for a couple years before us having that discussion, and I never knew that you went through these things. And I want to just make the viewers out there aware. I think the reason being is that there's so much fear of people judging you and discrediting your real life traumatic event and story. And at a certain point, you just get tired of people dismissing and discrediting you.
When that's completely true. When I got out of jail and came back to town, I did not start talking with old associates and friends, because in the midst of everything transpiring, there was 3 times they came and arrested me from my house for no reason over the course of 2 years. And each time I was in jail for several months. Just the county jail, awaiting trial, which never came. And each time, the buildup went a little something like this. I'm minding my own business. I'm getting deeper in touch with my own spirit and with the earth. And I'm trying to take some sort of action to engage my community into something natural and beneficial to life in general. One major thing was a community garden that I started digging alone. But anyways, when I got out of jail all of these times, and I didn't have anybody to talk to, because all of the people who were supposed to have my back, who sat around listening to me talk about how things really are before it got really real, they were on the other side of the fence. They were accusing me of being crazy, being on drugs, being a criminal, shouldn't have had that gun, even though I had the permit, even though it's Georgia, even though I was on my own property. All of these reasons why the cops were justified, and I should just not stand any ground because I'm standing on illegitimate ground. So these people were not my friends anymore, in my mind. But even after that, I realized there's no point in me talking about this to anybody, because everybody, their first go-to response is the cops are right. And I think the news programs us that way, which is part of the reason why I've formed Omniversal Media, to fight back against that psychological warfare that people don't know they're under. But I remember the first time that it was about a year before we reconnected. Right before things got really weird for me in my personal life, not because of cops or anything, just other weirdness. And you told me on a phone call, we talked for about an hour, 2 hours. We had a great conversation. And you were telling me what was going on. And I think this was right at the start of it. And I could tell from what you were describing that it was very similar and very much the same type of spiritual warfare that I found myself involved in. And then we didn't talk for about a year. And when you told me a year later that it was still going on, that's when I said, all right, we're now going to talk every other day, and we're going to work on your YouTube, and I'm going to do stuff with this media company to try to point people to your videos, because the only thing I know to do to help you at this point, other than come up there, which is what I did eventually, just to be a physical presence to not only support you, but also to say to whoever else, hey, he's not alone now. And that gun they took down in Georgia is right here on my hip now. All this shit I saw on YouTube ain't happening in person. Not while I'm here, because I know what it's like to go through it, Cody. I didn't have anybody to help me. And I'd be damned if I was going to watch you continue to go through it alone. And as a result of that, it's very interesting what transpired. So it's obvious you went after this lawsuit to say you're going to be held accountable for ruining these things in my life. And because you have a case and they don't, they've tried to pile on more and more and more, 28 times. And all it does is paint a beautiful picture of why I think whoever's the judge over the lawsuit should look at it and say, all right, Mr. Henderson, you win. And if the defense wants a reason or this and that, say, well, you took his property, you didn't have a reason, you had to give it back, which proves that you didn't have a reason, which means violation of civil rights. You win, Mr. Henderson. But we know that the conspiracy that governs us doesn't really work that way. So now I've got you on the podcast to bring even more attention to it, and to also point people towards a separate website that I'm putting together featuring you as the key star story to start it off, and that is thegoverningconspiracy.com, where I intend to not only write out articles and post the videos and share insider information about your story and case in general, not just the criminal side of it that you've already gotten past, but also to follow the civil side with the suit, to update people on Lawless's state of employment, all of that, because I want people to know. I want eyes on it. Because until people look at what's going on, they're not going to believe what they hear. And if they look, they're not going to believe what they see, and they're going to say, what the hell is this? And then I think you get that avalanche effect that we've witnessed with your channel, especially this year with the election and the new year. And just there's this general vibe amongst the people of something has to change. And I want to help point people in the right direction of figuring out what it is that needs to change. And I wanted to be all eyes on you, man. I want everybody looking to follow your case with the civil suit. I want them to get as close to it as they can, and if it doesn't go the way that it has to need to go, I want them all to yell out and say, what the hell? Where's the justice? Where's the justice? And force the system to change. The same way that, I came up there, media request. They wouldn't let you film in the courtroom. I said, well, maybe they'll let me, an out-of-state media company, film in the courtroom. I went through the proper channels 3 times. Denied, because the judge didn't like me or whatever. But how'd that work out for that judge with that criminal thing that you no longer have to worry about?
Which judge?
Oh, Miss, I'm gonna pull the wools over your eyes, wool-shyed Susan.
Oh, yeah, that was an interesting situation. The interesting situation is that whole case began with me going to a courthouse for another case, which they've done that twice now, where they've cornered me at courthouses they knew I was going to be at with multiple sheriff personnel, knowing that, I don't like being followed around and harassed by these guys. If I haven't committed a crime, don't be walking in my shadow. That's just disrespectful, first and foremost. And secondly, that's a violation of my privacy in a general sense. Like, I know I'm in a public space and I don't have the expectation of a large amount of privacy, but I should at least be able to say, hey, listen, you have no reason to follow me around. Please stop following me. And it's interesting because if it was a normal person, let's say I was at the mall and there was this creepy person following me around and I told them multiple times to stop following me, at a certain point that becomes harassment. And it's interesting that they send cops to harass me and expect me not to, tell them to leave me alone. But the whole case was very interesting because it was all just freedom of speech. I was at a courthouse. Cops started following me around. I told them I didn't appreciate it. I got their name and badge numbers and started filming. And then I told them I was going up to the 3rd floor to get public record requests. I told them I didn't want them following me and harassing me, as they already have. They then followed and harassed me up to the 3rd floor. When I came out from the clerk's office, I addressed them redressed them for grievances. And as I was walking away after redressing them, I was speaking to my camera, which was filming for YouTube, and I said, "I'll fuck you up, bitch." And I was speaking specifically about suing the cop who was violating my rights and following me around. And then he comes down and says, "Mr. Henderson, you're under arrest for making a physical threat of violence." So they took me to jail. They even tried to, which is funny, when they were arresting me, I protested the arrest. I did not resist. And this is important to note. There's a difference between resisting and protesting. The only way you can protest an arrest lawfully is by doing nothing. You can't resist against them. You can just become dead weight. And becoming dead weight is not resisting. You're just not assisting.
I bet they love that.
And so I became dead weight and let them do their jobs because I'm not here to do their job for them. And they threatened verbally to charge me with resisting arrest. And I told them right then and there, I said, resisting is a physical charge. I'm not being physical and I'm not physically resisting. I said, I have no duty to assist you in your unlawful arrest. And I let them know the arrest was unlawful from the inception of it. Anyways, they took me to jail. I bailed out. And I had court the next day. I went in there and smashed the judge during the arraignment. Made her go to recess in the middle of the arraignment. She was furious and embarrassed. And she should have dismissed the case right then and there. And she did not. Instead, she just decided to get a chip on her shoulder and say, oh, well, who does this guy think he is, trying to get this, fraudulent charge dismissed? Well, I'm sorry, lady, but your whole duty and job is to follow the rule of law, not the rule of thrones. So I don't care what your sheriff said. If I didn't break the law, I didn't break the law, and you need to dismiss it. Furthermore, you're not following the proper procedures. And anyways, as we progressed in that case, even though I clearly on the record stated that I would be representing myself, she appointed a public defender to represent me. And the Supreme Court even later noted that. But in following hearings, and actually at that moment, let me take it back, I told her that would only be permissible as long as she knew that I was still representing myself, and that yada yada. Basically, all right, you can put whoever you want on the case, whatever, but I'm still my own attorney, and I'll fire them if I want to. And what was interesting is that at following hearings, they refused to let me speak. They silenced me. Only my attorney would speak. Even my own attorney that they appointed was trying to silence me, and the Supreme Court noted that as well. And they had me removed from 2 different hearings for quote-unquote being disruptive, when all I did was enter on the record legal objections to the fact that they were avoiding proper legal procedure. Meaning I was offering legitimate legal arguments as my own attorney. That's not a disruption to the court. That's the whole purpose of the court, is to hear legal objections and the whole 9 yards. And so they had removed me from court twice, saying that I was disruptive, and 1983 federal lawsuit may come from that as well. But at that point, the second time they removed me from the court, I had enough. And I decided to go to the Supreme Court, go above all of their heads, and file an affidavit of disqualification to have the judge looked at and to have her disqualified from the case for violating my constitutional rights. I'll also add in there that in that time, some of the legal objections and things that I was putting on the record had to do with the fact that you, with Omniversal Media, had put in multiple media access requests to film the proceedings in the public hearings. And according to state law and the United States Constitution, there's freedom of press. And the courts are also public. So with written requests, there's no reason why someone, and specifically press, shouldn't be able to film courts.
You would think.
Court proceedings. And Ohio Rule of Superintendents 12 affirms that by saying a judge shall permit the recording of a hearing with written request.
To reiterate that, folks, the law for the court says if I put in the request, the judge, not maybe, not could, but shall grant permission.
But yeah, exactly just that. It shall, and that's very clear language that dictates the actions of what a judge must do. And what's interesting is that, they denied Omniversal Media's media access requests twice in a row immediately. And that was one of the big things that I brought to the Supreme Court's attention, is not only did she appoint an attorney that I didn't ask for, violating my Sixth Amendment right of self-representation, not only did she have me removed when I wasn't being disruptive, not only did they silence me and not let me speak when I was my own attorney, but they refused media access to catch all this on camera because they knew they were violating the law.
They had something to hide.
Exactly. They absolutely had something to hide. And the judge's response to this, to my affidavit of disqualification, said that we've managed to find a way to deal with Mr. Henderson and his quote-unquote outburst, meaning objections, which you're allowed to object.
Yeah, God forbid you stand your ground.
And here's the thing. If you don't object to something on the record, you can't appeal it. So what they were trying to do is they were trying to railroad me and prevent me from appealing it by preventing me from entering objections on the record. Because if you don't object to it, then you accepted it. So basically, if they violate my rights right in front of my eyes and I don't object to it, then I can't appeal it, and I basically just accepted it.
You hear that, folks? It's important to stand your ground because nobody's going to stand it for you.
Exactly. And if you don't put in an objection, you can't appeal. So you have to object. And so anyways, she wrote back to the Supreme Court, and I just thought this was hilarious. She said, we found a way to deal with Mr. Henderson and his ability to practice law. We're going to clear out a little private room, and we're going to shove him in there all by himself, and we're going to put a camera in front of him and a microphone, and we're going to give him a trial basically through a Zoom meeting, and we're going to mute him until we want to hear from him.
Yeah.
So we're going to take away his right to object. We're going to take away his right to a fair trial. We're going to take away his right to actually, confront his accuser, because I'm sorry, but a Zoom meeting is not confronting your accuser. And we're doing all this because we know Mr. Henderson is smart, and we know that he's going to win this appeal, and we're trying to punish him for crimes that he didn't even commit, and we're trying to railroad him. And I just thought it was funny that she would even present such an obviously corrupted argument to the Supreme Court. To me, that's just disrespectful to the entire judiciary to offer that type of argument.
It kind of points at the fact that she's banking on the hope that the conspiracy that governs us all is going to win out, and that, like the appeal thing in the latest video that you've got up, which you said, that did not go in your favor, which doesn't make any sense to me, or the other 100 and however many thousand people saw it. She was banking on the hope that they were going to side with the conspiracy and say, yeah, how dare you, Mr. Henderson, be disruptive and talk over the judge when she's busy trying to railroad you. But that's not what happened. And it is disgusting because I read that document, and it's really disgusting to read how she not only just like it was a normal, everyday, okay thing for her, the judge, this esteemed fucking position, to act so juvenile in her communication with the Supreme Court in response to your thing. She says all that, and then she kind of just brushes me and the whole omniversal media and press and all that off to the side and says, yeah, he's just some YouTuber. And goes on to say they got a solution figured out. They're going to lock you in a room so that they can press the magic mute button so that you can't talk. And you can't stand your own ground. That way they can forcibly push these charges on through and get their guilty whatever. And I want people listening to see that if you do not stand your ground, as you pointed out, then they get what they want. They don't want you to stand your ground. And if you do not object, you cannot appeal it later. You're stuck with it. And how many people have paid an illegitimate speeding ticket because it was too much trouble to figure out how to not pay it? Or anything else of the sort? How many people get stuck with plea bargains for stuff they didn't do because they get threatened? Oh, this could be way worse if you try to fight it. But I didn't do it. But wait, that don't matter. You're screwed. Says the prosecution, your public defender, maybe even your paid lawyer. I know that's what the paid lawyer that my parents hired for me told me. And I said in the first meeting, I said, well, hey, sir, you can fuck right on off. I'll be fine by myself. Because I'm not admitting to doing anything wrong because I didn't do anything wrong. And we're not going to go that route. If you want to defend me, cool. But that's not a defense.
Right, and that's the thing is these lawyers are, it's all about optics. They figured out a way to manipulate people. They figured out a way to be buddy-buddy with the courts in the back end and then come out and talk to you like they're buddy-buddy with you as well. And they do this to play the whole system and play the whole thing. And the biggest thing they're trying to get you to do is lay down, plead guilty, and take your licks, whether you did it or not. We need the money, and we all got to get paid.
That's so convenient, because then guess what? They don't have to do. They don't have to work.
No, all they got to do is get you to sign a piece of paper, and it's done.
That's the only thing I've learned throughout all of this, is that a lawyer's number one job seems to be to not do their job. If they can figure a way to not have to do anything and charge you for it, that's what they're going to do each and every time. And we all just, as a society in general, we've normalized it so much so that the judge thinks it's okay to say to the Supreme Court, yeah, fuck this guy and fuck his friend too. We're gonna get him. Don't you worry, big boss person. We're gonna stop this dissent in its tracks by locking him in a room so that we can press the mute button so he can't object. But that's not what happened. The Supreme Court said, well, you shouldn't be doing that to Cody's rights and everything, but how dare you? How dare you? And this was the whole point of my involvement with the media company. It's a corporate entity, all on the EIN, playing on the same playing field. Got a lot more respect than even you got from the Supreme Court, who wrote, 56 pages of them again and again and again telling this judge, this wool side, how dare you try to pull the wool over people's eyes and tell the press that they can't. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? Not about violating your rights or putting you in a room. But she got removed and reprimanded.
The Supreme Court admitted that multiple of my constitutional rights were violated by this judge. But then they went on to say, but those constitutional rights violations alone don't lead us to disqualify the judge. Mm-hmm. And I've reflected over that for many months now.
It's intentional.
And what I've been thinking about is, if a judge violating, not just potentially, but clearly violating your constitutional right doesn't equate to bias, prejudice, or an appearance of impropriety, which an appearance of impropriety just means her not following the law or seemingly not doing things properly. I mean, how does violating someone's constitutional right, literally the most important fundamental rights in the entire United States, how does that not give off an image of impropriety?
How is that not the most important thing to be said? Because, guess what? Media company or not, press, whatever, the entity doesn't exist. The person does. Mr. Henderson exists. Omniversal Media is just a title, So how is your rights being violated not the key component of their response? That's what never made any sense to me. And the answer is on purpose.
Right. And so, yeah, it's very interesting that the Supreme Court, and I think the whole situation was serious, but it's interesting how the Supreme Court really picked out them denying media access as being the important thing. And I think that it comes down to a few things. I think, for one, the Supreme Court doesn't want to, the biggest thing, the Supreme Court doesn't want to help me get a lawsuit against them. If the Supreme Court came out and said, oh my God, she violated your constitutional rights, that's absolutely horrendous. Well, then that gives me a validation and a testimony from the Supreme Court to go sue her, So first and foremost, their protection is to prevent me from being able to sue her. That's their first, goal. Then secondly, I think the other thing is that they want to prevent the public from having a negative opinion about courts and judges. And, as if a court or judge violating someone's constitutional rights isn't enough. In the public's eyes, them not allowing the media to be there is even worse, because now you have judges clearly violating the law, and and in multiple ways. And you have them hiding that fact by preventing media from being there, which is a fundamental basis of our Constitution. It's in the First Amendment, free press. So to me, it seems more like that the Supreme Court was trying to prevent this from reaching a certain point where it was going to all be exposed, and they were going to be included in that.
They were just doing damage control?
It was absolutely damage control. Absolutely damage control.
That's the vibe that I got from it. But it doesn't matter, because I think that me and you got what we wanted, which was the corrupt judge banned from your case, and then have that play out after you got rid of Susan off of that particular case.
Yes, that was really interesting. So as soon as Susan got disqualified, they appointed Judge Hine, who is actually really honorable judge from my perspective. Well, somewhat honorable judge from my perspective. He's pretty lenient, I'll put it that way. They still will protect their own generally, but once they appointed him, and this is the interesting thing, this is probably 3 months into the case. Once they appointed him, my biggest complaint was that I still had not received discovery, and the video from my camera that detailed the entire instance from start to finish was being withheld from me because they took my camera illegally. Because I'm free press, they can't take my camera. They maintained ownership of it. I filed a motion to return seized property. Woolshide denied it. They continued to keep my camera. And so then I filed with the prosecutor a motion for discovery to have this discoverable information turned over according to law. And he refused to do it. I mean, he just ignored it. I mean, we're talking months on end. And so I thought that I was getting ready to go to trial without having any clue of what evidence they're about to use against me, which is illegal. And so I filed another motion for discovery. He still ignored it. So then what I did is I was like, all right, man, you want to play games? I can play games. So I submitted to him 60 public record requests one night, all separate, all unique. And a week later, I filed with the Supreme Court of Ohio a writ of mandamus requiring him to turn over those 60 public record requests, or else he owes me $60,000. And still to this date, I have not received a single answer to any of those emails or public records requests. And we're just awaiting the Supreme Court's decision. But my point being there is I decided to start a lawsuit against them separately on a separate issue, just to let them know that I'm not gonna lay down. I'm not gonna play your game. And I'm not gonna just do nothing. If you play with me, I'm gonna play with you. Except when I play with you, it's going to cost you $60,000.
They need to be held accountable. I mentioned earlier how many times have people listening just paid some speeding ticket. Maybe you weren't speeding. Maybe it was illegitimate. Maybe you were speeding up to get around somebody, and there was another car coming. You had to speed up even more, something like that. And then they wrote you a ticket because they saw you. Nobody was endangered. This and that, whatever. And you just paid the ticket. You didn't even try to fight it. I want you to notice next time you get a ticket that they don't really make it clear how you would go to defend yourself. They just say, here, go online, pay this ticket here. And I'm pointing that out because recently, very recently, I went back to the same courthouse that they did all the fuckery against me, because on the very first day of this year, I drove a normal rate of speed through an area that was no longer under construction in that same town, and got a ticket from the cop that was speed trapping everybody. And I said, cool, now I got an excuse to show up. So I showed up and I sat there for 2 hours till they called me up, and I talked to the solicitor, who's somebody I know, and he, the prosecutor in the case here, no judge present, says, I'll do you a favor since we don't want all that stuff from the past coming up. I'll drop it down to 100 since you are only going 59. And then you can be out of here. I said, but I'm not going to pay you anything. Speaking of that, where's all my property that y'all took last time? At that point, he seemed to have forgotten about that past. You know, all those charges that disappeared. he saw that I was recording him on my watch because they wouldn't let me bring my phone in. And I said, I'm not paying anything. I wasn't speeding. This is America. He's harassing people. Speed traps are illegal in the state of Georgia. And he wanted to argue and tell me how you can fight it, but you ain't gonna win. And before I could get to the point where I said, why don't you just dismiss it like all those other charges? He got fed up with me and passed the paper over to this random lady next to him, and she started asking me, do I want to defend myself or get a public defender? I said, I want both. I'm not going to give up either one of those rights. And she got confused. She ran back to talk to him. He sent her a message saying, tell Ethan I'll give him a call later. He's free to go. But he don't have my phone number, so he can't give me a call. So just like that, my entire speeding ticket went away, mysteriously disappeared, because he doesn't want me asking where my property that they stole back in 2016 went, or bringing up the fact that it ever happened. Because guess what? They erased all that shit because they knew they did not have a case at all, that they did violate a whole bunch of rights, and that if I ever sought to pursue justice, they'd be all in a world of hurt. So I stood up for myself and didn't have to pay a $100 ticket. But I learned that by watching you, Cody. And I want everybody else that watches this, hears this, listens to it, to go to your channel. So then go to thegoverningconspiracy.com and read more about it. And then I want them to learn the same lesson. Because the thing that I think you and I understand, Cody, that a lot of people might have a hard time digesting is that had you not stood your ground, and had I not shown up to also stand on that same ground with you in person there, these people very well might have pushed the envelope all the way to making it a physically dangerous situation, i.e., they're fed up with you, they come up with a plot, they get rid of you for good. Because I know that that was the idea behind the first time they came after me. But I never gave them a chance to play out their plan. But that was their plan for me. And if you don't stand up for yourself, it doesn't have to be they arrange a way to shoot you. They could just lock you away forever and ever and ever.
And that goes back to something you were just saying. You're talking about people who, may have gotten speeding tickets or other tickets that were improper. And I want to add to that and say that, I've had a ton of people reach out to me since I started this, because a lot of people are also inspired by the work that I'm doing. And a lot of them have shared with me all these corrupt situations where people were taken to trial without evidence. And these people were doing 20 years in prison for things that there wasn't even sufficient evidence for. And, I'm not here to support anybody who's, doing wrong out there and condoning their actions or anything. But ultimately, this is America, and we do have a justice system. And in the justice system, you have to meet a certain level of evidence before you can convict somebody. And those levels are not being met around here. And people are literally losing their lives to hearsay. People just saying that something happened.
Mm-hmm. You find out once it happens to you that it's not innocent until proven guilty. It's guilty until proven innocent, and it's punished and treated like a criminal until you figure a way out of it. Usually the only way out of it is to pay some arbitrary fee, which means, guess what? They not only kidnapped you, they not only threatened your life, they robbed you blind in the process. All illegitimately. And that's the average day-to-day business as usual for everybody that works in the courthouse or in the justice system. And if you're somebody who does work there, you know that I'm telling the truth. And I don't care if you don't like it. I want you to get really real with yourself and say, what happens if it happens to me? What if I'm out of town and people tell stories about, you go to Mexico, you do something right, wrong, whatever, you don't bribe the cop, then you're in Mexican jail for however long, maybe you don't ever come back. Guess what? America's way worse, in my opinion. Never been to Mexico, but that shit will happen to you in your hometown. Everybody watching. And at the end of the day, everybody watching is going to say, I can't believe I don't know where he went so wrong at. That criminal, Ethan, Cody, you, whoever. All you got to do really is piss the wrong people off. And by the wrong people, I mean anybody making decisions. These elected officials, we elect them and then they decide our fates. All right, that's how it's supposed to work. Oh, wait, no. It's really wild, Cody. It's really wild. Before we wrap this up, is there anything that we did not cover that you want to point out here? I'm going to basically take this recording, plug it in, get the transcript, and generate a video, post the video, share it with you, post it to all of the podcasting places, and then put it on thegoverninconspiracy.com. All today. So if there's anything in the moment that you want to share that will help you, will help the listeners, or in general make humanity a little more prepared for this year, please close us out here, sir.
So my word to all the people out there is simply this: united we stand, divided we fall. Now is the time to stand together. We've got to put political beliefs aside. We've got to put race, color, religion aside. And we've got to realize this is authoritarianism versus freedom. This is corporations versus real life people. And this is governments versus we the people. And anything else has to be thrown aside. That's irrelevant. And so we need to come together. We need to support each other. We need to stand for our freedoms collectively. And we need to inform ourselves collectively with the arm of the law so that we can utilize it to the greatest abilities to hold these people accountable and to make sure that we continue to, and I don't even want to say continue to, we begin to create change, positive change in our communities. These people are in position only because the rule of law exists. Yet once they get in that position, they think they can deny the rule of law and that they get to create laws as they wish, create procedures as they wish. And this is the rule of thrones. They think just because they're upon the throne, they're the king. And this is America, where we don't have any kings and we don't have any queens. We are all equals here. It doesn't matter if someone's the president of the United States, the highest judge in the land, chief of police, or a janitor or unemployed. We are all equals. And we need to make sure that that is fully supported, because that is what the law says. And so I just really encourage us all to study, hit the books, learn the laws, learn our rights, our constitutional rights, learn what we can do about these things, learn about the 1983 federal lawsuit that you can file if your constitutional rights are violated, learn the basis of evidence and what you need to be able to proceed in court if that may be the case. Make sure that any interactions you have with public officials, you're filming them and documenting it, and that you're keeping all that organized in a safe location. And never underestimate the corruption that is right before our own eyes and our own local communities, regardless of how long you've known these people or not. This corruption is right here in front of our eyes, and it may be people that we've known. But the thing is that they wait until it's the right person at the right time to do what they want to do. And we've got to keep our eyes open and our ears open at all times and remain ready. So that's my biggest word and encouragement to the people out there. If you've enjoyed this conversation and some of the things that we've touched base on, please check out Wildman Audits for videos about some of these instances, because just talking about it, it's hard to conceptualize it. And this is something that we've seen a big change in the last 20 years is cameras, body cameras and cell phone cameras have completely changed our judicial system and caused people to lose faith in our judicial system, because people are finally seeing these things that they've heard about for decades. You know, there was people in the 90s talking about cops beating them and this and that. But people were ignoring these people's stories because they sounded, oh, that didn't happen. Oh, that's far out, this or that. You know, similar to your experience where it's not caught on camera. So all your friends are just like, oh, yeah, whatever. It's your fault.
It was interesting. I went to face this ticket. The guy made me turn around and go and put my phone in the car. He said, no cell phones, because people have been recording. I said, oh, interesting. So I had my watch and I recorded it anyways. And I made sure that the prosecutor that I guess I was meeting with that day saw, yeah, recording. You're being recorded, sir. Let's talk about it. Which is why he promptly decided to not talk about it. And he went off into the back room and sent a message forward and said, you can go. I'll call you. No, you won't. I don't have to worry about this anymore because I won the game there. He said, no recording. Why no recording? Because he was hell-bent on me paying $100. And why? Because the state has to win. He has to maintain his position. This is a guy that I've known for, my mom used to clean his house. I've known him for 15 years in the same town. He used to be my lawyer. All this and that. And he's not going to help me out at all. He's just going to say, well, I'll reduce it to $100. No, I'm not paying it. How do I go about getting I need your signature, sir, to get the video from the body cam from the officer that wrote this ticket. By the way, where's he? What's going on with all this? And he didn't want to hear any of that because he knew that he's unprepared to defend his side of the thing. Because guess what? Nobody ever fights their speeding tickets. Blows my mind. I went there a month prior to that same courthouse, asking everybody I saw that worked there how to find out who the prosecutor was in this speeding ticket case, so that I could obtain his signature to get his permission to get the open records from the Open Records Department from the state of Georgia, so that I could begin to build my case. Only to be told by everybody, I don't know, nobody's ever done this before. We're not sure how any of this works. And that's the thing, folks. These people are unprepared for you to stand your ground. And
yeah, and the biggest thing is this judicial system is allegedly, well, not allegedly, it is paid by our tax-paying dollars. And it's allegedly here to serve us, but just as you've shown, if you ask a simple legal question, they refuse to answer you because they consider that given quote-unquote legal advice. So they absolutely refuse to answer the questions of the public citizens that they are paid by and that they work for. And it's absolutely ridiculous because the clerk shouldn't be giving like, oh yeah, you should use this defense. But if you ask the clerk, how do I go about filing this or how do I go about fighting this, she should be reasonably helpful with saying, oh, well, you have to file this or you have to go here and do this. That's not legal advice. That's procedural advice. And they sit here and they take that whole, oh, we don't have to give you legal advice thing, and they take it way too far.
Like
and they
children.
act like
children.
We don't have to help you at all.
They act like children.
And another thing I wanted to mention on that is I was just thinking about that whole situation last night. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look into the statute of limitations in Georgia on speeding tickets. And once the statute passes, I'm going to give Dalton a call, and because once the statute passes, there's nothing they can do, meaning that the ticket's dismissed at that point. Now I'm going to give him a call and just be like, yeah, so I'm checking in on this this instance where there's an alleged speeding ticket from your county. I was like, with such and such. Are you familiar? And I'll be like, yeah. I'll be like, yeah, I'm needing to make public record requests for the camera here. Are you able to provide that? Is there any reason why you're still withholding that information? And the reason that this is going to be so funny is because it's going to be after the point that they can't do anything about it. They can't charge you the $100. They can't do anything about the speeding ticket. And it's basically going to be me rubbing it in the prosecutor's face that he's a corrupt piece of shit and that he let the statute of limitations pass and he hasn't provided the public records and he just didn't want to do his damn job.
And again, it's not about fighting fire with fire. It's about holding them accountable and saying, no longer, no longer, no more of this. This is unacceptable, and we're not going to accept it. Standing your ground with Wildman Audits. Thank you so much, Cody, for doing this. I know that we tried this once before, but I think this is a good part 2. One day maybe I'll fix part 1. But we have something clear, concise, and to the point to share with everybody as we venture on into 2025. I hate to say it, folks, but Trump's not going to save you. The next president's not. Elon's not. And in fact, unless you do like me and Cody are encouraging you to do and fight for yourself, then they're going to keep doing this. It's going to continue to get worse. The normalization of just paying the fee and just going along and then not causing a scene. That's how we got in this position. The only way that it stops is when we decide that enough is enough. Check out Wildman Audits on YouTube, youtube.com/Wildman Audits, I think, or just type Wildman Audits. He's going viral over here. Cody, before we go, who else has contacted you for interviews so that, people can be on the lookout for that? I'm sure that you'll post updates, but
San Joaquin Valley Transparency. Check him out. He's got 600,000 subscribers on YouTube. He's been begging me for an interview. I say that respectfully, like
you should contact him today.
And I've been waiting to get some decisions first before doing any interviews, and I just recently got a decision, so I do have updates. And then the local newspaper called the Record Herald recently sat down with me for an interview where she was diving into some of my court cases. And she's found herself very interested in my entire story, and she's digging all the way back into the beginning. And who knows if she'll release a story or not, because locally there's a lot of controversy around me.
Imagine.
But I can only hope.
Well, I definitely hope that not only, you've already gotten out of the crosshairs, so to speak, of the immediate danger. But I can only hope that things continue in your favor and that you do get justice and that all of what was stolen from you, at the very least, gets returned. And by that, I mean, it's obvious to anybody with a brain, as the Supreme Court said in that document, that your rights have been violated and you deserve what you're asking for in the lawsuit. Not only because they have to be held accountable, but because justice must be served. And I don't think anything's just about stealing an opportunity away from you, such as that. For those who don't know, Cody was well positioned right when all of this happened with Lawless and all of his stuff was stolen. He was well positioned to take a front runner seat, an opportunity to get in on the legal hemp industry right when it was all becoming legal. And then the opportunity, once in a lifetime, was stolen from him for no reason. And by no reason, I mean they had to give him his shit back.
Yeah, that's the hard part to see, is that, you know, the fact that they had to give everything back shows that they were in the wrong.
Exactly. And I'm sorry that went down that way, but I hope that the future is much brighter for you. My name is Hawkeye the Rapper. You should go listen to our song called Politicians. Also, I'm going to close this out with an unreleased track. It's called The Vow. I've got a 4-part project coming up titled Sun Tzu. The first part is an EP dedicated to none other than Chief Lawless. It's called the Lawless EP. The other EP is where this song is featured from. It's called The Vow. And until next time, Cody, let's hope that the government everywhere don't make me write their fucking name down.
And I give you my salute, Hawkeye. Thank you for standing strong and for uniting, because united we stand. Let's continue to stand strong and stand our ground.
Amen. Well, brother, you have a great day. I'm sure I'll be in touch soon. You should reach out to that 600,000 subscriber person today while the energy's still heading that direction.
Yeah. I've been promising him an interview, and he's overall just a really cool dude as well. And he's like us, man, and he wants to help the people see what's going on. He wants to put eyes on these topics of interest.
The fact that he picked up your video, the fact he picked up your video and not only shared it, but said the things that he said, and then, reached out, really lets me know, okay, he's about the work more so than the views. It's interesting, though, to note the math that I did in terms of the ratio of your videos to his videos and subscribers, this and that. Never forget that you're 95% more successful than the people you look up to. So keep on keeping on. I think it's a world-changing mission that you're on, just like you helped me write in the hook for the song that started this podcast off. That's called Politicians, folks. Go listen to it and laugh at the photo. The Vow.
Write your name down,
this
bitch.
you can't find it.
I'll write your name down.
Freedom.
Write your name down. Your name down, yo. Don't make me go and write your fucking name down, bitch. Cause once you're on it, there's only one way off of this list. And hope you know it's always personal. These words that I spit, they're controversial on purpose. Oh, and no, I won't quit. I'll write your fucking name down. I'll write your fucking name down, bitch. I'll write your fucking name down. Your name down. Your name down. What I really mean to say, express, convey, and make clear is that my shirt says shoot your local pedophile for real. Did I stutter? Can't you deaf bitches hear? Hawkeyes that got a game to make sure you all disappear. So fuck your rapping highly weird. Celebrity acting my career is putting fear back into God. It's so traumatic. So when I cause you to feel like you're the only one this happened to, just know I had to do something about the fact that this planet is full of fucking foolish adults so cartoonish that I'm not sure any child can mature if exposed to it. But you fucks keep pushing your luck with me. I'm not gonna budge. You stand the fuck down and suck on these nuts. Yo, don't make me go and write your fucking name down, bitch. Cause once you're haunted, there's only one way off of this list. And I hope you know it's always personal. These words that I spit, they're controversial on purpose, so I know I won't quit. I'll write your fucking name down. I'll write your fucking name down, bitch. I'll write your fucking name down. Your name down. Your name down. What you thought this was, that badge don't make you Superman, Clark Kent. I'll put a dent in your shield just cause I can, you little bitch. I know it pisses you off when I show you that I won't submit. These other people might bow down, but just know I don't miss. Unload the flow, heal those exposed, exposing hoes and then reload. Unleash the beast, complete defeat. Can I compete at all? Capiche? I won't relent, so don't forget reincarnated. To resist me, you're retarded. If you ever try to come and start some shit, I'll write your name upon a page and make you famous, bitch. You not engaged, just walk away before I strangle you with this tangled language. It's so dangerous, this game you insist on playing with me. Couldn't get me even if the state assists. Yo, don't make me go and write your fucking name down, bitch. Cause once you're haunted, there's only one way off of this list. And I hope you know it's always personal. These words that I spit, they're controversial on purpose, so I know I won't quit. I'll write your fucking name down.